So what was it specifically that was deterring you from pursuing the police procedural aspect?
That imposter syndrome, feeling like a fraud. I had been the things that were often at the helm or the protagonist's main career or avocation, whatever it was that stood out as their identity, I could identify with in my other books, either through a close family member or myself. And I felt I could write them with authority, and authenticity is really important to me, getting things right. And I had never been a cop. I've been a private investigator, but I've never been a cop. I've been a lawyer, but I've never been a cop. And I just was scared. And it turned out that with the help of others, that I could butcher that just as well as I did any of those other fields. So,
and did your publisher provide any help in terms of getting you the information that you felt you needed, or was that really on you as the author to find the subject matter experts to tap into?
I never asked them to help me, so they might have, but I did it on my own, and I told them what I was doing. I actually reached out to also the sheriff and the undersheriff in our county. The sheriff was wonderful, but it ended up I relied on the police chief more heavily, even though I was writing something that was more rural and was more, was a sheriff's department. But I found that the law enforcement people, most of them found it fun. Some were nervous. Some were like, oh, don't tie my name to that. But I found just the right guy, one who's ready for me to crow his name and find him lots of writers to work with.
Yeah, as I often say on the podcast, it is fun to find those subject matter experts who know inside and out what happens in real life, but are willing to say, well, yeah, that normally wouldn't happen, but you could make it work if this.
Exactly.
Like, oh, I love you.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than the expert who says, but it just wouldn't happen. And you're like, can't or wouldn't. Wouldn't is good. Wouldn't is exactly where we're pushing to. We want something that is more exciting than every day.
Yes. If the books were all about what happens every day, then nobody would be reading them.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, that was different for me, but I've enjoyed it. I'm on the 4th book in the series right now, and I'm feeling more confident about trusting my instincts and knowing we can fix it later, and saving some more questions for Travis, my consultant, until we're down the road.
And the we can fix it later is related to the details that you put in about.
Yeah. And I want to strike a balance between my details being correct and not burdening a book with details. And I found that one of the things that's good about me never having been a cop is I don't feel burdened by the details. I want as little as possible so that we can keep the pace of the book up. And I'm not constrained by, but I need to include all this background and all this detail, et cetera, because to me, it's meaningless. I really think of it more like a reader. How do we get from point A to point B while doing it, correctly, but on the edge of vigilantism and not getting thrown in jail? So we don't get fired or thrown in jail today. It's roughly what a cop could and would do. And yet we get there fast enough to satisfy a reader who wants to read a thriller.
Yeah, I think that the idea of what details do you leave out, I was at a talk that James McCrone gave at the Brandywine Valley Writers Group meeting last night, and I think he was quoting Keith Richards or maybe about songwriting, but it was, you're not done when you have nothing else to say, you're done when you've taken out everything you can. Yeah, to that effect. But I thought it was even if I'm butchering the quote, it was a great words to live by for authors.
I think that's fantastic. Yeah. It's one of the things that I do find challenging when I write books that are written more by people that are subject matter experts, is that it's harder for them. And the ones that have that expertise and can leave out enough are spectacular. That's what I want to aim toward.